Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations, and welcome to the Memory Lane YouTube hop. And this hop is intended to tell a story. So I'm using this particular sketch, and I am telling a story about how my brother and I, well, I'm sure he was included in it, but we are both riding this pony. But the story that I'm telling is how much we really loved spending time at my grandparents' house. And they had I would say it's a farm. It's very small, but it was a farm. And my grandfather raised horses and always had horses and ponies, and how much we used to love going there and riding. And so that's what I'm telling my story about. A story about my past. I have a lot of photos from when I was young, but I don't have a lot of photos scrapbooked from when I was really little, like this age. I think I'm 3 years old in this photo. So my goal is to kind of start working on getting those scrapbooked. So I have this paper from Basic Gray, and it's kind of like a floral, and it reminds me of like the tooling that you would see on like a leather purse or a leather belt or something like that. So I decided to use that with this plaid. I had toyed with using that other paper that had a floral on it as well, the red, but the two florals were competing, so I went with the plaid, and I really like how it came out. And I'm not even sure where, oh, actually I do know where that plaid is from. It is from Echo Park, and that collection is called, it is called Cowboy Country. And I didn't use anything else from that particular collection except for that red plaid, and then I do use the back side of it to add some embellishment areas. So I decided to go ahead and ink everything up with walnut stain distress ink, and I really like how that looks. And then out of my scrap bin I found this red and this green. I don't end up using the green, but I do end up using this, it's red, but it's kind of a brownish red, and it kind of just picks up on the darker stripes in that plaid. So I really like how that looked. I ran it through my Cameo, and I just cut some stars in varying sizes, and so now I am using some Liquitex liquid ink, acrylic ink, sorry, it's acrylic ink, and it's iridescent bright gold. And so I'm just kind of dry brushing that on very, I don't want to say loosely, but I'm just dry brushing it on into some areas. I don't want complete coverage. I just want it to kind of have a streaky kind of feel to it, and I really like how that looks when it's done. And then I'm going to ink those up also with walnut stain, and I really like walnut stain. I don't put a ton of it on, and my pad is not super juicy, so it just creates a nice brown, and that is my preference over vintage photo, which I know a lot of people use, but the vintage photo to me looks more orange, and it's not as pleasing to my eyes, so that's why I choose to use the walnut stain. The backside of that plaid is a map, and so I'm using the map there as my photo mat, and then I'm just kind of deciding which way I want that star to go, because it does have some squiggly lines on it, and so I didn't want it to like compete with the vertical and horizontal lines of the paper, the plaid in the background. So I kind of left it so that the lines on the star are a little bit at a diagonal. Then I'm just going to place a couple more of these stars around, and I really like how that looks. And I am going to have an embellishment area all the way on the right hand side where those two stars are at the moment, and I'm about to go ahead and put that together. And then I'm going to use a tag for my journaling, and it's going to be created out of that same matte paper. So I am following the lines on the matte paper. It's a county line right there, and I am just following that to cut. It's not exactly a rectangle because it has a diagonal line at the bottom, but it's somewhat a rectangle. So I'm using that over on that far right hand side. And then this is when I decided I'm going to add a tag, so I needed to take some of the glue off of the back of my paper there. Oh, and I guess that matte paper was actually from the back of the paper that comes with the collection that shows you all the different patterns. So I just have cut a 2-inch strip of the matte paper and stuck it in my Stampin' Up! Die that is a tag topper, and I'm going to slide that under. And it wasn't sliding really super smooth, it was kind of like getting caught up on things because the star is underneath there, and then there's multiple pieces of paper under there with the diagonals of the plaid coming in. So what I did was I just adhered this piece that I'm cutting right now down to the bottom to cover up all of those little joins of the paper that are causing the tag to kind of hang up. And so that works much better. It does slide in much more smoothly, and I really like how that looks. And then I am going to add a piece of twine to the tag, and I'm going to staple it on because if I try and tie this twine on, it is super bulky. It doesn't lay smooth because it's so rigid. So I just used my tiny attacher to staple it on there, and then my tiny attacher ran out of staples, so I had to replace some of those. You know, that's always the way it is when you're in the middle of trying to film a video. You run out of staples or you run out of ATG tape. So I did cut that out so you didn't have to watch me refill the stapler, because that makes for exciting viewing. I did decide to use this Stampin' Up! Label punch, and it's a small label, but I don't use it super frequently because of that, but in this particular case it worked out really well. And then I actually did use the tiny attacher on both sides of that so that it kind of brings in that same metal as the tag has on it, and that's one of the reasons I popped that up onto foam, because otherwise the ends of it were kind of like popping up from the staples being on there. So anyway, I would like for you to go and check out all of the other ladies that are playing along. Their links are in my description box down below if you're interested in hearing more about this. It's a more journaling heavy hop that we are doing. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed getting the stories down onto the paper. I don't always include my journaling in the video process, but almost all of my layouts have journaling on them to some extent or another. This one does have quite a bit more than some of them do, but that is really the intent of this particular hop, which I think is really a great thing, because we oftentimes don't tell our stories quite enough. We are telling our kids' stories, our grandkids' stories, but telling stuff about ourselves, not so much. And you know, not everybody's maybe choosing to tell about their own lives. They might be telling about something, current events or past events that have happened in their lives, maybe how it affected them. But I chose to tell this story because my grandparents were a really big influence in my life, all throughout my life, and actually my children knew them for several years before they passed on, and my kids were, you know, probably 7 years old before they were both gone, so they got to know them quite well because they lived next door. I hope you enjoyed this hop. Check out the other ladies playing along. I'll see you next time. Bye.